Live from the KC Property Guys and KC Pier Studio in beautiful Kansas City. Home to over 200 fountains and more barbecue restaurants per capita than anywhere in the nation. It's the Kansas City Real Estate Industry Leaders Show, a show about industry leaders from the local Kansas City metro market for Kansas City real estate related professionals and enthusiasts like you. And now, here's your hosts, Eric and Lucas Scheele.
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Kansas City Real Estate Industry Leaders Podcast. My name is Eric Scheele. I'm your host today. Lucas is out of studio, and we have in studio today Alethea and Anthony Robertson out of Topeka. And this is a lot of fun. So I normally have Lucas across from me. This is a little different, but I'm glad you guys are here. Welcome to the studio. And what we do is we talk KC Property. Lucas and I will talk KC Property Guys stuff and stories and foreclosures and investments, and I'll bring the KC Pier guys in, and we talk foundation issues, Kansas City foundation issues, and then we bring in real estate industry leaders, and we talk to them about just what they do. We pick their brain, right? And I like getting, in this case, we have customers, right, of KC Property Guys, and you kind of touch upon every one of those channels, right? Because when we worked with you, we did a little foundation work, right? We got creative, which I love to do. I'm a creation solutionist, in terms of real estate. And you got to work with, in my opinion, some real estate industry leaders in terms of KCPG Realty Group. And so you guys are like a hybrid of everything, which is fun to have. So welcome to the studio. Love that you're here. And so we're gonna talk a little shop today and kind of cross and hybrid into a lot of different things that we talk about on a weekly basis. So what we normally do is talk about your story, right? And so let's go back to the beginning. How did KC Property Guys we've talked off video a little bit, but we never even talked about this part. How did KC Property Guys even enter the picture when we first were introduced?
Do you want to cover it, or do you want me to?
Okay, well, we were in our house feeling very stuck.
Yeah.
Because we knew we had a lot of foundation issues and a lot of things that needed to be done. We've been in the house for about 9 years, and we bought it as a fixer-upper, but we realized really quickly that we were not the fixer-upper kind of people. And
right on. Who made that decision? It was like, hey, honey, I found this house, right? And I've seen HGTV, and I can do this. Come on, that conversation had to be had, right? At some point in level.
You know who you are.
Okay, there it is. The proof is in the pudding. Alethea, you were gung-ho. You thought, you're like, man, I can swing a hammer. Anthony, if I can't do it, you can, right? Come on, let's jump into a $150,000 commitment and make this thing happen, right?
Yeah, that's pretty much how it went.
And so your first 6 months are spent gung-ho, paintbrushes come out, watching the videos, how-tos, the improvements happen. Life then begins, the motivations change. How do I know this so well? But motivations change, the enthusiasm starts to die, life starts to happen, the kids are involved in sports, activities, the weekends of tearing and changing and fixing get a little bit longer. It's like, man, it's pretty easy to find other things to do after about 6 months. 9 years goes by. Was it 9 or 7?
9.
9 years go by, and 8 years go by. And you're like, I don't know about this was such a good idea anymore.
The repairs, right, especially with the foundation, you'd invite people over.
Gets overwhelming.
And everybody has a different idea of what needs to be done.
Yeah.
And, with my background, I had no clue, so it was overwhelming.
Yeah.
And then it's like, who actually is telling us the right story and the right fix?
Oh, and you even mentioned that on KC Pier, and I could go on and on about KC Pier and talking with homeowners. And you'll have 5 peer guys out there, foundation guys out there, and you're going to hear 5 different things, and you're left like, oh, okay, what's real, what's not real? One has a $20,000 bill to it. The other one has a $3,000 bill to it. If they were all within $2,000, that's one thing. But when the gamut is huge, it's like, what do I do? Who do I trust? Where do I go? You're not alone there. That happens all the time. So that you get to the point where it's like, okay, what do we do? And that's where we came in the picture. Is that what you're saying?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, pretty much.
Okay, so you call KC Property Guys for the cash option. All right. I show up, and what happens?
Do you want to? Okay, yeah, I can go first. So, probably the biggest turning point for us was when you actually had your guys come out. We were talking about everything, and you initially had one idea about what the situation might be. But I liked the fact, and it made me feel a lot more comfortable that instead of just looking at the surface, you guys went and said, let's take some measurements, let's take some reads just to make sure that the story matches with what we think immediately. And when they came back up, and they're like, well, we thought it was this, but there's great news. It's actually this, because they took the extra step and actually did the measurements.
Right.
So immediately I felt a lot more comfortable realizing they were just going to kind of walk in, do something really quick, and be like, yep, everything's good. Your life's perfect.
Yeah.
More than skin deep.
No, absolutely, and very, very good point. I don't mind being wrong, and I don't mind being verified, and so I may be the president of KC Pier, but I got structural consultants under me that have the tools that can measure and tell us exactly what's going on in a foundation, and we'll draw it up professionally and present it that way. So, a good point. I hadn't heard you mention that before, but having that affirmation of, hey, this guy has some resources, and these resources actually know what they're doing, there's some trust there, was important to you.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay.
Crucial.
Good. Okay, so from that visit came this cash offer, and this is not uncommon, that our debt is this, the cash offer is this down here. What do we do? And that's kind of what we were dealing with. Correct, if I remember correctly. It was close, but it was like, it doesn't look good. And so the creative solution starts coming out.
Yeah.
Right? And so that's and I really enjoy that piece of it, because it we mentioned this off air, is it doesn't always start that way. When we first started 5 years ago, it was like, you're either a cash option or you're nothing. And there's only certain people that fit that cash option, and it has to be, the prerequisite for it to work is, here's what I owe and here's the cash option. It has to be something above that. You can't go below, and there's a lot of times where it's below, and I didn't like walking away from those solutions, and so we came up with something creative, right? And so when the creative solution comes out, now what are you thinking?
Well, it really felt like this was our one shot to get out of the house.
Yeah.
Because we wanted for so long to just be done with that house.
Did you know in your heart of hearts that you were underwater?
It felt like it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, especially with the foundation. The other stuff, probably small beans, but that right there felt overwhelming. It's like we're not going to be able to get what we want if we just throw it on the market as is.
Yeah. Yeah. And foundations, we talk about this a lot. Foundations and mold turn away more buyers, in a traditional real estate transaction than any two things. And every realtor will tell you that. And so you had one of those two. You had the foundation issue. So going on market as is, given that situation, was probably setting yourself up for failure. Mm-hmm. And we kind of talked about that. So, from there you hear the creative stuff. Now what? You're thinking it's the one shot.
Yeah. So then we started looking for places to live, so you guys could fix up the house.
Yeah.
And we got out of there within like the next couple weeks, right? And
yeah.
You moved like lightning.
Yeah.
I mean, it was like,
we were a little motivated.
Yeah. You were out of there like a cat with a long tail in a room full of rockers, man. You were just bolted. No, and I couldn't, you don't have to move. And I was really surprised when you said, "Yeah, man, we're out," and you turn yourself loose on the property, which means that it allows us to really take and speed track a lot of our fixes, because we had some sheetrock work, we had a lot of painting work in there, we had the foundation work, obviously. We did a lot of dressing up, right, and did some deferred maintenance, as you spoke about. We had to do some deferred maintenance repair, 9 years worth of unfinished projects, and some structural integrity on the deck, if I remember correctly, and so you being out of the home was extremely helpful, not necessary, but extremely helpful there. And you were living simple and enough where it could have been done, but that was a huge bonus. It really was. And so when you turn around and you say, okay, I'm out, and 2 weeks later you're serious, you're out of there, I'm like, okay, these guys are definitely serious. So we turned the crews loose, and we walked through it. So you were comfortable jumping in, even before that. You were like, okay, this is our one shot to make this happen. We're going to make it happen, and if we're going to do it, we're going to really do it.
Yeah, I was amazed at how smooth everything went. So you guys just came in, you took over, and we didn't have to really do anything. But, we didn't really do anything.
Well, you took marching orders, and you did it well, and you asked your questions ahead of time. So it's great teachers show up when great students, walk the path. And so you were great students. You listened, you took advice, you trusted, which a lot of people have a hard time doing. And by doing so, we can look back and you were rewarded, right? So we go to market. I think we're in the house maybe fixing it for, 3 weeks, something like that.
Yeah.
And I probably had it listed within 2 weeks after that, I'm guessing. It's Topeka. And Topeka is a slower market than Kansas City in terms of selling. So my stats showed that we hopefully are going to have a contract in 37 days. And what happened?
2 weeks later.
Yeah.
we had a contract.
That's fantastic. And that was really surprised me. And we were talking about that earlier when the realtor from KCPG Realty Group said, we're under contract. I was like, really? It's like, I shouldn't have been that way. I showed my cards. I was like, yeah, well, I expected it. No, I didn't. I was like, really? That's awesome. Well, that's fantastic. And so you guys are now on a path, right, to we've flipped the script financially. We've taken you from a negative equity position, flipped it, and got you into a positive equity position, right, which we all celebrate. You've taken that equity. And you have a plan, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah. You want to talk about that a little bit?
Like what you hear so far? Make sure you never miss a show by clicking the subscribe button now. The podcast is made possible by listeners like you. Thank you for your likes, shares, and support. Now, back to the show.
Do you want to, or?
Yeah, so the goal at this point is, and obviously selling the house was a big part of that.
Yeah.
It's just being able to get out of debt this year.
Yep.
That's the goal. So that open ourselves up to move out to Washington State and really like it out there.
You got a life path, man. You're walking it.
So it was it last year? It was very recent that he introduced me to Dave Ramsey. And then we started following his steps to get out of debt and his baby steps.
You're entering my world.
Yeah.
Welcome. This is fantastic because I love taking a creative real estate solution. Literally, we have Kansas foreclosure help as well. We help and reach out to people that are in foreclosures, and we come up with strategic strategies to help people garner themselves out of foreclosure. And this is a big part of that willingness and really desire to help people with real estate problems. This is what drives me. And so you guys are now on a financial path, through Dave Ramsey, which I'm a huge proponent of. So you're on the baby steps, right? The house doesn't necessarily have to come first. In fact, it typically doesn't in Ramsey. You flipped that script a little bit where you took that equity and I assume have planted it towards debt, right? That puts you at which baby step?
So we're on baby step 2.
Baby step 2. You got your $1,000 of savings plus maybe a little bit more since if you're putting some stuff away, and now you're approaching and attacking debt from smallest to largest, right?
Exactly.
And the big part of that debt is
student loans.
Student loans.
Mm-hmm.
Student loans, which is a big part of a lot of people's debt.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And so your path, have you projected it out, your path to graduate or pay off all debt is
This summer.
summer?
Mm-hmm.
Really? When did we sell this house?
End of January.
Yeah, January.
Very last
Close
day.
at the last day of January.
Within a few weeks.
Yeah.
You're telling me is this August, January, July? What do you think it's going to be?
By the end of August is what I was thinking.
You're about to go from baby step 1 to baby step 7 and graduate in about 8 months. Yeah?
We're hungry.
Yeah. Good for you. Man, that's so awesome. You realize that most people, it takes them on average 2+ years to do that, and you probably have been following Ramsey for some time. People typically, I don't know if you're the typical case, we were, where a lot of times it's the male figure or the taskmaster who says, all right, man, I'm all in on Ramsey. We're going to go. I don't care if you're coming with me or not. And it doesn't work out that way, but that's the way it usually starts. And then once both couples kind of dive in together, then huge things are accomplished. And so you're there.
Mm-hmm.
You both are hungry.
Yeah, definitely. I guess that was more of a Les Brown quote
Hungry.
than Dave Ramsey, but same thing.
Yeah, right? God, that's fantastic. So you guys are looking to maybe graduate by August, and then by graduating, off to Washington State you go.
Mm-hmm.
Debt-free.
Debt-free.
And
Oh
we
my
wanted to do
gosh.
it right.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Fantastic. Dave Ramsey, I hope you're watching because these guys are coming for you, right? And I hope I can talk to you sometime because I feel like we're a big part of that with a lot of people's story. But if it doesn't happen, it doesn't happen. I'm still hungry to help people, and I'm glad that you guys could be a part of that and could experience it firsthand. And now that you are on your path to being debt-free, and it's life-changing. We talked about this earlier, and I repeat a lot of stuff. What Ramsey says is that you create that new branch off your family tree. You change history.
Mm-hmm.
When you're debt-free. You really do. You set the tone for your kids, and you're able to eventually, at some point, give generously. You're able to give, and from all of that, you change from the inside out as well. That's a fantastic life story. So I hope someday you can actually give that debt-free scream and you're headed there.
Well, and I mean, just to kind of rewind just a little bit, I mean, one of the other parts that I think was really integral to all this working out as well as it did, and I know Alethea mentioned how smooth everything went. It was because of how upfront and transparent you were, right? This is what's going to take. This is the kind of commitment I need from you, and then you also found out what we needed. So it was all two-way street communication, which
Has to be
necessary.
Yeah.
And we knew everything up front. At that point, we knew, right, plans don't mean anything unless you execute. So it was time to execute.
Yeah, right on. No, really, really good point. So and we are transparent. That's the only way to be. That's the only way you can accomplish big goals. You can't do it by hiding. Hey, I'm going to tell you everything except this. It doesn't work that way, because the except this comes up and bites you every time, with that exception. So, no, absolutely. Transparency is huge, and we show all those numbers so we know what our goal is. We are in a partnership with a lot of this creative stuff. When we get into this bucket of creative solutionists, it becomes a partnership, and part of that partnership is full transparency, because if you're not, it just and through experience, we've been bit through non-transparency, and it doesn't work out, and so we talk about that up front, and so that's a really, really good point. So what's next? You're paying off the debt, right? You're there. It sounds like you're going to be there in no time. And then there's going to be at some point a move to Washington State. You already know where you're going?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Bellingham.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right. Anthony, you're all in with this?
I actually...
You're small town Kansas boy, right? You're going to Washington State.
Yeah. would like to have a change of scenery. She had always told me that she's like, oh, you'd really love it here. I'm like, I don't know. I mean, I've been a few places, but then we went and got to see all the scenery. And the big thing is here, if you want to do outdoor activities, unless it's winter, tons of bugs.
Yeah.
And I got hassled by 2 bugs total in a whole week of being there. And the scenery was beautiful. I had the ocean right there. The mountains are within an hour.
Nice.
So
you're all in.
After that, I was like, oh, yeah, I want to live here.
Yeah. That's fantastic. Well, that's unbelievable to me that you guys are going to move that quickly along that line. So, any shout outs? We didn't really talk about this, but here's your opportunity to say any shout outs. Is there anybody that you want to reach out to or anybody kind of helping you along the way, or is this like a self commitment that you guys have kind of done on your own, or is there a celebrity mentor out there that you kind of follow that's outside of Ramsey that's motivating you? I mean, what's really kind of sparking you on this journey?
Well, okay. It's 2 things.
Yeah.
The celebrity mentor is Tony Robbins. And so shout out to him, but not that he'll see.
You'll never know.
We just came back from 2 of his events, and life will never be the same.
Nice.
Ever. And then the other thing is I want to thank you for what you've done for us.
Right on. No, it's okay. The $50 is in the mail for that little plug. That's not a problem. It's coming. No, I appreciate that, but it's just what we do.
But it was like you were a superhero. You came in because we were feeling really trapped.
Yeah.
And then we feel like we got rescued. But I know we did a lot of it ourselves, but
you did.
But you did that.
You did, and you did it by trusting and just let the resources, work for you. The peer and property guys and KCPG Realty Group. You trusted in the system, and in doing so, you're rewarded, and that's the fantastic. Well, I appreciate the comment. You don't mention me in the same sentence as Tony Robbins. That's unequivocally not equal. The guy's fantastic. In fact, a lot of our realtors are big proponents of Tony Robbins in terms of business motivation, life motivation, and you put those guys in the same conjunction and life path of a Ramsey solution formula. You guys don't experience this now. I'm fortunately a Ramsey graduate, but you are headed in a different path. I mean, you 1 year after 1 year from today, I want you back here. All right, I'm flying you back from Washington, and we're going to talk about what life is now.
All right.
Can it be in the fall?
Yeah, it can be in the fall. It doesn't have to be in the winter.
Winter or summer are terrible months here.
Yeah, and that's no problem. Well, it can be in the fall, but it's seriously, I would love to have you back here because you're gleaming now, but you're going to glow differently then. When you become debt free and you change life paths forever, and that's the journey you're on, which I think is just absolutely. I keep saying the word fantastic, but it is phenomenal. So congratulations, you've done a big chunk, and you're on your way.
Yeah, well, and just to kind of add on to her, so yeah, I mean, it was you were an integral part of this, and then also just your whole team. Robin was also amazing. She was willing to take phone calls and texts and work with us with our traveling schedule, which was not easy during this process.
Yeah,
middle of the night.
The middle of the night.
Yeah. In
sorry,
fact,
Robin.
you went to Tony Robbins during this process, if I remember right.
Yeah.
Yes, actually twice.
Twice.
Yeah, in the beginning and during the closing.
That's right.
That's funny.
That's right. That is awesome.
Life changed.
Yeah, life changed forever.
Yeah, but the whole team, everybody, all the foundation guys, you, Robin with the realty, I mean, everybody made it super easy, and we're just really conducive. Yeah,
it's a great testimonial, and I appreciate you guys coming in, and you're welcome, but thank you for trusting it, and in the end you get the reward, right? So appreciate you coming in.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Thank you for having us. For inviting us.
Yeah, you bet. So we're gonna wrap it up. So this is another episode of Kansas City Real Estate Industry Leaders, and we will see you next week. Take care.
Thanks for joining us this week on the Kansas City Real Estate Industry Leaders Show. Please support all things local to Kansas City. And hey, be sure to subscribe and share our podcast on Facebook and LinkedIn. This has been a KC Property Guys production. KCPropertyGuys.com.